Welcome to the Present and Sober podcast with your hosts, Sam Goldfinch and Ellie Crow. If you want to make your life bigger, not smaller, then this is the podcast for you. If you can sense that you're destined for more and you're curious about how drinking could be holding you back, listen in and come on this journey with us. Through the interplay of mind and body practices, we will help you elevate your daily life and discover the wonder and potential of going alcohol-free. Let's make life bigger together. Over to you, Captain.
Oh, you fucker. I was just going to try to talk over me on purpose, and you did it.
I didn't.
Sneaky little devil. Hello. Happy Tuesday, folks. It's good to be back. And we've got something really exciting and, well, not just exciting, but something very special planned for you folks, you lovely listeners. And this journey that we start today is going to meander on for a little while. We're going to do a little mini series, and this is applicable to wherever you are at in your journey. And I don't know what I'm singing, but I am. So
what tune was that? I don't know what I'm singing.
I don't know, just a bit short tuney. Talking about music, we've got to be on the money today, haven't we? Because Mr. Sam's been given a very important job. He has to. Don't pile pressure on here. He has to get Eurovision tickets. And
the chances of this happening are highly unlikely. This is about there's a lot of people going to be tutting right now and thinking, what's this? But yeah, my missus, Robin, she's keen. She wants to go and get some European cheese. And I don't mean Swiss cheese. I don't mean either or whatever.
No. So so if Sam fails, then he's probably I'm going
to try and create this. I'm going to create this. I'm going to draw it towards me. The thing is, there's literally so many thousands of people trying to get these things. So we'll see. Update next week, folks.
Yeah, watch this space. Actually, there's no point in sending good vibes your way because no one's going to hear this before.
Anyway, there's always point in that.
Well, that's true.
Right. Come on then. Do a frame. That's what you do, and I'm not going to pre-frame your frame.
Okay. Oh, you didn't either. You usually do. So I was on a coaching call recently, and I was coaching a very wonderful lady, and as we come across quite often, so much depth to her story and a lot of pain. And in this moment of connection, she said something that really hit me in the heart, and it was something along the lines of, I'm such a fuck up. And part of the reason it hit me hard in the heart is because I felt like that as well. And I've thought about it quite a lot since, in terms of the stuff that is at the core for all of us, the stuff that's behind all of this stuff, whether it's to do with over drinking or anything else, any other kind of self-medication, is coming from a place of lack of self-worth, lack of value in self. And so what we wanted to do was create this series whereby we can normalize the stuckness that we find with this I'm such a fuck up type belief, and then guide people along a little journey of, here are the different places to spend some time, to dwell, to find new perspective and possibility. And there's a bunch of just really wonderful conversations that we're going to be having after this one, but this is the one that frames it all. And to me, it just feels like a fundamentally important conversation for everybody, every single one of us that's in a human body now. And this is likely one of those series where it's going to be helpful to come back and listen again and again and again at different points in time.
Yeah, awesome. It's going to be applicable to so many things, but in particular, substances, foods, that kind of stuff. It's funny because it gets a bit I found this with alcohol, like you're getting battered by by the reality of drinking as well. So it's not only that you've kind of maybe got this belief that would be potentially a lot easier to work through and see through. If you weren't under the influence of alcohol, you're also getting like hit chemically. You know, your central nervous system is getting depressed by this drug, and that has its own chemical component, and then they kind of interplay, and what we're left with is this kind of, I'm never going to figure this out. You know, I'm looking around me, and I know I'm supposed to be hopeful, and I see all this stuff, but I'm a special case. Like I'm you know, I really am fucked up. I really am a special case. And we make these podcasts in the spirit that we both know without a shadow of a doubt that that's not true. And yet we know that it can feel true. And so we really want to put something together that will kind of, I don't know exactly what I was going to say there, but bring people into that space of knowing that, oh, fuck, just because I've been feeling this, it actually doesn't mean it's true. You know, just because I've had these thoughts, see it circulating around my head, because we're all in our own reality tunnel. You know, we're never living in anybody else's experience. So it's, you know, I've heard me say 100 times, it's impossible to see the label from inside the jar, or hard to see it from inside the jar. And so we can easily get lost in these spirals. And when we're in the spirals, we tend to be less, we're in less of an insight-friendly space, and it's insights that are going to help us to move on and move forward. So yeah, there's hopefully going to be a calming that comes from these conversations as well. I'm really looking forward to them, mate. It's going to be cool. Great idea, by the way.
Yeah, I'm fucking
Kudos
good,
to you.
I'm good.
I have some good ones as well, but yeah, you did have this one.
Thanks, mate. Well, it seems to me super important, because when we start to enter the kind of worlds that we do through whatever the pain point is, we start to hear things like, and I know I've said these things a lot to people, you know, you're whole, you have everything that you need, all of these sorts of things. And on the receiving end of those things, people can hear them, become aware of them, understand them, but not necessarily know them as a felt lived experience. And so this is part of the reason why I want to open up this conversation today, but then these little episodes that will form this mini series, because it's going to give people the opportunity to take that other perspective and be able to find that new thinking that's needed. So, well, not just even thinking, but the experience of the felt experience. That's a bit that's missing.
So what are some of the things we're going to explore? Tell me. I know a few of them, but I think we need to, come on, let's tease a bit of it.
Really?
Do you not think we should?
Open up my big list. Well, maybe.
Don't have to do all of them, but just because I think this will help people understand, like, what that this is kind of like, as you said, a framing for all of these conversations. So go on, what are a few that we've got planned?
So there are some near ones, which are things like self-respect, self-trust, self-control. And then there are some farther ones like self-love, self-forgiveness. And then I've got a bunch of others on my big list. And the reason I'm saying near and far is I think some of the ones that I'm just personally today classifying as far can seem loftier. You know, they can seem potentially further out of reach, or that might just be me.
Love it. Cool. Okay, then. So what else is important that we I mean, you spoke about something really important. I know that we had a podcast not too long ago about, you know, the difference between understanding something intellectually versus having an embodied knowing of that thing. And I was reading something earlier this week, which was amazing, which was basically saying, you know, knowledge or kind of ideas and information doesn't become transformative until we allow it to change us, right? So it's kind of like, if you think about the idea of, yeah, I'm whole or whatever it might be, but at the level that we have the embodied knowing, at the level when that drops, there's an actual change. Like there's a genuine shift, right? Like the world looks different. We see that truth, that subtractive truth. So I think that was a really important thing that we wanted to talk about. And look, it's like the things to drop expectations of when those things are going to happen. Like, just because you listen to a podcast episode doesn't necessarily mean that something's going to drop, although it very well might. And like, then you'll like be out for a walk in the park, and then something you heard however long ago, you'll go, and then, I don't know how many people you've worked with, Ellie, where something has changed. They've heard the things that we've said or on our programs or something like that, and they've picked up some information, but then they come back with a glint in their eye and they're like, oh no, and they start repeating it, and you're like, oh no, that's actually hit them now.
Yeah.
So you trust that. I think one of the ways that we actually set ourselves up for, I'm such a fuck up, I'm never going to figure this out, is that we set those expectations on ourselves. We're like, okay, I've listened to the podcast on self-worth or whatever, I should have it by now. When actually it will land, but it will land when the time is right. And it looks like, if you're calm and if you're chill and if you're less expectant, if that is a word, then
yeah, it's the energy that we'd like you to take into these episodes is that of an expansive, open energy, as opposed to a chasing, grasping, need to figure something out tension, because that sort of tension is exhausting and is likely to stand in the way of the very thing that you're seeking.
Yeah, we're back in that kind of paradoxical space of, if you're playing a sport, from whatever, through to golf, to football, to whatever, right? Just to use an analogy, that you want to score goals, right? You know that you want to win, or you know that you want to put the ball in the hole, but that's okay. But if you intensely focus on that, it's the only thing that you're looking at, then often we innocently tend to miss. It's about kind of letting go. It's about trusting that it's more like, here's how I kind of see it. It's like opening, knowing what you'd love to have happen, knowing what you'd love to experience, and then just opening to that. And just trying to do, just not even trying, like, words are so funny, aren't they? Just opening to it, just opening to the possibility that it's possible. And all you need is like a small amount right now of like, like Jamie said, like when he was on the podcast the other day, he said he was sat in the AA meeting back in the 80s or 90s or whenever it was, and he had this kind of strange insight that was like, even though I know this isn't going to work, what if there's something I've missed? What if actually it can work for me? And suddenly he was filled with hope. And that's kind of what we want to offer everybody as well, open to the possibility that even though you've been convinced that you're a fuck up and you're not going to figure this out, well, what if even though you felt like that's true, it's possible that this could work for you anyway.
Yeah, it's the little chink of light. And then as you open to that in a non-grasping way, it widens, and you start to feel a bit like the sun on me now. You feel that radiance, and that is what's happening. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. We've meandered around some stuff and haven't talked about the first thing that I wrote down.
What was that?
Which is where it comes from.
Oh yeah, go on then.
So we were, first of all, we were going to talk about two things. We were going to talk about where the notion of I'm such a fuck up comes from, and then the kinds of things that perpetuate it, so that we can recognize what's happening for us individually in our own experience, and also become aware, if we're not already, of the things that are keeping us stuck in the stuckness. So earlier on, when we were talking about this, the way that I described it was, and this is my view is that it comes from a disconnection from self. And it's one of the things I've been thinking about recently is like how and when that happens. Because I'm not sure that I could pinpoint it for myself. But I know that there are, like, I'll often say to people to look back at a picture of them as a kid. And if I look back at a picture of me as a little kid, there are some photos that feel like, and by the way, I don't have many, but there are some photos that kind of feel like the before, and there's some photos that feel like the after. And the after, I wonder whether there is a stage of development, and it'd be really interesting if we could find a good guess for this. But I wonder whether there's a stage of development whereby we, as we're starting to find our way in the world and want to, and I hate this term, but fit in, where we want to be accepted, whether that is an acceleration of this move away from being self to being more others. And it's interesting looking at my kids now, because certainly little Chester in the middle, he's very different from his big sister. His big sister is all self. and I look at her and I think, good for you, mate. Although it's painful to be on the receiving end of it sometimes. Whereas Chester is very all others and very little self. Like, he has to make sure everybody else is okay for him to be okay. So in our formative years, there's a lot of stuff that's happening that is going to mold us in certain ways. And through that experience, we're going to adopt coping mechanisms, tendencies, habits, beliefs, and the carrying forward of that into adolescence and adulthood is what's then leading us to this, not just the disconnection from self, but the lack of really understanding who and what we are, and the worth, the inherent worth that we have.
Yeah, I think for whatever at the personal level, it looks like so often what we're doing is creating a story or a narrative around when we think something happened, or and we all have these times in our lives where we can think about those kind of events where a teacher, like, we had something happen at school that seemed small, but it wasn't, and it really impacted us. The kind of I don't know, whatever it was, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it was. It was like being told for having a hand up too much, or whatever it might have been, right? And it was that thing that really impacted us. There's all those kinds of things, and so there's loads of stuff across, and then there's societal level programming in and around that stuff, and then there's kind of like comparing ourselves to others and using things like clothing and the things that we buy in order to try and go into social networks and social groups and stuff. But so I think at that personal level, we're never really going to necessarily know exactly when and how things happened. But I love the question from the top level of like, well, what is it that's going on? Because I think for all of us, that what you said was really beautiful. Like, there is a photo somewhere or a you somewhere where just that light is so obviously shining through your eyes. That natural kind of like just beautiful gift that you have to come and bring into the world is completely unbounded and is shining through you, right? So it's already there. And then over time, there's a process of adding. And so the thing is, for many people who are listening to this, and I know we've said this many, many times, but you'll still be in this idea that you're lacking something, that you need something in order to have self-worth, that you need something in order to have self-compassion or self-love, or whatever these things are that we're going to talk about. Well, the truth of the matter is that this is entirely subtractive. Like, it was already there. You were this glowing being of just pure, true self. We all know that when we hold the baby, like you can like, it's just pure awareness, just pure beingness. And then, so like you're already free. Like you already have everything that you need. Like you're not lacking in anything. Like these things it's actually the opposite. It's that they're covered up the programming and the kind of like development of like the ego self. And you know, as we look in this direction, we're going to continually point to who you really are. And so maybe it makes sense for anyone listening to this podcast, go grab that photo. If you've got one, go find one, go look at that 3-year-old you, 4-year-old you, 5-year-old you. And just be with that picture and just consider what beingness was like then, you know. And sit with the question, what if that didn't actually go anywhere? What if it's more like clouded right now? Maybe there's just something getting in the way rather than a lack or the requirement for more. It's about less.
Nice, buddy. Nice work.
Well,
I like it.
Me too. I like it because it's really good fucking news. Because if it were about more, if it were about the car and the house and the this belief and that belief, many of us would be fucked because we'd never get there. But the truth is, you've already got it. You've already got it. So that's great. That's brilliant news. It's already there. You're gonna find it. You're gonna enter into that space of knowing at some point. And if you're listening to these podcasts with us, you're going to be waking up. There are going to be times in your life where you feel connected to that. There'll be times in your life where it feels easy, where you feel creative and where you feel whole and where you feel like you're home. And there'll be other times where you feel kind of not that, where you feel kind of stressed out and you've got a head full of bees and there's all this stuff going on. And we're all going to be slightly different. We're going to have different blind spots. We're going to have different things that you know, that are sticky for us. Areas of life where we see things differently, where we're further away from how life actually works. And that's okay. That's okay. We're all human. No one gets out without knocks and bumps. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, there's plenty of those available.
So with our final 10 minutes before Eurovision, the rush to Eurovision tickets. Am I what? Sorry, clock watching. I thought you said something else for a second then.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Do you know, talking about cocks, when I went to the Lake District with Robin, this is a great cue up for a story. There was a cockerel that didn't do cock-a-doodle-doo. He did something else. He did he wasn't quite there, bless him. He had like some other kind of song he was singing. He'd gone a bit wonky. But it was quite cute. It was quite sweet to lie there listening to him at 5 o'clock in the morning. Thankfully, I don't get up that much later than that, so it wasn't the end of the world. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, there we go.
But I bet he didn't sit there thinking, I'm such a fuck up.
Well, no, that's a really good. Yeah, here we go. That's gold, because you're right. Because all he was doing was just singing the song that the intelligence behind life has brought him here to sing. And you have that song too. We all do. And some of us have a very different song. Some of us, you know, and that's beautiful. Like, they're all unique. And so I think you're right. Like, to use the kind of ideas that you were using earlier, we try to sing the song of the group that we're potentially kind of, that we want to be in with. And sometimes we lose ourselves in the process of doing so. Yeah. But it's still there.
Yeah. You don't need to cock and balls, cock-a-doodle-doo like the cockerels. You do your own thing.
That's great. I like that.
God, it's magical. I think
that's a Disney story, that, isn't it? We need to sell that shit.
Trademark.
That's how we can we'll create a story. We'll write a story. The Cockerel with a funny song. That won't be the title.
No, needs some work.
But, you know, off the top of my head, it's not too bad. Anyway, I thought it was going to be. So I thought it was going to be really. I don't know why I had this idea in my head of like what this cockerel was going to be like, and I went round to have a look at all the chickens. I was like, yeah, exactly, and I was like, fucking hell, look at him. Was
he a big bad boy?
Yeah, wasn't it what I expected? Don't know why.
Just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point about expectations is an important one, because that whenever we have expectations, we're closing ourselves down. It's constricted as opposed to being open and expansive. And if you want to feel good, so that the people that we're around are always looking to feel better and feel better about themselves. Well, if that's what you really want, then that's going to come from connecting to your true self and being able to live your life aligned with what's really meaningful and important to you, and it's going to be uniquely yours, and living that way with integrity and being fully, authentically, unapologetically you, like the cockerel. Like, fucking hell, that feels good. That really feels good. So that's what's open to you. Like, regardless of whether you listen to the rest of our wonderful series or not, that's what's on offer. Our wonderful series will hopefully provide lots of opportunity to, I don't want to say do the things that you need to do, because you don't really need to do anything. But to have that space, the touch points, what did I say earlier on when I was describing it to you? When I had to pitch to Sam earlier to get my own way.
Always.
What did I say to you earlier on? I was saying it's like places to dwell. Places to dwell.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, that makes it sound like I've literally like, right, come on, and what are the week's ideas? Let me hear them.
It's a hard ass, Sam.
Don't trust you. No,
Don't trust
great.
me.
Of course I do. Of course I do. I trust you implicitly. It's that's the right word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Implicitly. Yeah. God, sometimes you know that thing where you say something and you're like, did I just say something outrageously stupid? Well, yeah, okay, there we go. So a bit more of a calm, very collected kind of feeling based episode around where we're going with this. And if you're half as excited about it as we are, then you're going to be pretty bloody excited, because when we started thinking about the potential for this and like where we can go with it, it's really, really lovely. And you know, we're always trying to make this do something a bit different here. As much as we want to have connected conversations, we also want to really help you make your life bigger, for you to grow into the size that, you know, your true size, for you to find your cockerel song, for you to do whatever it is that is there for you. You're kind of the blueprint for your life that was there when you were 3 or 4. You know, in the same way that any seed that comes within it, or has contained within it, the entire blueprint for everything that it's gonna grow and expand out into. And like, yeah, it's such an incredible thing to be able to go on that journey and look in that direction, and to have the courage to do so. So yeah, cool.
Awesome. So make sure, if you're not already, that you're in our Facebook group, the Presently Sober Podcast Facebook group. You can come and show us your cocks in there.
Please don't.
But please actually don't. So I can...
The cockerels is fine.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? We'd have to close it down.
Good God, Ellie Crow. This is why you can't be trusted. This is why you need some kind of...
who brought the cock up in the first place? God.
Just constant. Okay, on this note, I'm going to go...
Countdown to Eurovision.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see if I can get some tickets for Eurovision. Wish me luck, folks. Love you.
Good luck, Mr. Sam.
Thanks, mate. In a bit.